Hi guys! Today we're going to look at the basics of prefabs in Unity and how we can use them to add multiple identical enemies to the scene. We'll start with this scene that has a character that responds to player input and a single enemy that chases the player if it gets too close. We created this in our 2D top-down shooter series, so take a look if you want to know how it was done. Alternatively, you can download this project by supporting us on Patreon. All the links you need can be found in the description. Okay, so a prefab allows us to store a game object with all its components and configuration as a reusable asset. This asset then acts as a template and allows us to create multiple instances of the object within the scene. So we're going to create a prefab of the enemy that we can then use to create multiple enemies. Let's navigate to the Assets folder in the project panel. Then we'll click the plus button and add a new folder. We'll call this Prefabs. We'll double-click on the folder to open it. To create a prefab of the enemy, we can simply drag it from the hierarchy into the new Prefabs folder. We now have an asset for the enemy. If we look in the inspector, we can see it has all the components and attributes for our enemy. Now if we want multiple enemies, we can switch to the scene view and then drag the prefab in to place them wherever we want. We'll select a few of them in the hierarchy and alter the rotation just for variation. Because all of these enemies were created from the same prefab, they will be exactly the same except for their position and rotation. Let's press play to try this out. We now have multiple enemies in the scene all behaving the same way. You'll notice that at the moment we don't collide with the enemies and we can walk straight through them. Let's stop the game to fix this. For objects to collide with each other, they need to have a collider component. We can add a collider to all the enemies in one go by adding the component to the prefab. Let's double-click the prefab in the project panel to go to the prefab editor view. In here, we'll click Add Component and search for Collider. There are various options for colliders, but we'll go with Circle Collider 2D. You can see now that there is a circle around the enemy. This will define the collision bounds of the enemy. Let's shrink this slightly by changing the radius to 0.45. This will give the player a bit of leeway, meaning they won't be hit by the enemy if just the fingertips collide. We'll click back in the hierarchy to save the changes. Now if we click on any of the enemies in the hierarchy, we can see that they all have a circle collider. This is the power of prefabs, allowing you to make changes to a central asset that are then automatically applied to multiple game objects. For the player to be able to collide with the enemies, it also needs a collider. We'll select it in the hierarchy. Then we'll click Add Component and add a Circle Collider 2D component. We'll reduce the radius of the circle to 0.4 to better fit the player. OK, let's press play to try this out. Now the player can collide with the enemies and they can collide with each other. At the moment, the enemies can push the player around, which isn't really what we want. Let's stop the game to fix this. In the rigid body settings, we'll make the player extremely heavy by setting the mass to 10,000. We'll also add some friction by setting the linear drag and angular drag to 10. This will make the player too heavy for the enemies to push around. We want the player to be able to push the enemies to a degree, but we'll add a bit of resistance. We'll select the enemy prefab. Then we'll set the mass to 70 and set both drag values to 10. Let's press play to give this a try. Now the player cannot be moved by the enemies, but the player can still push the enemies out of the way. At the moment, all the enemies are the same, but prefabs still allow you to have variations. Let's stop the game and select one of the enemies in the hierarchy. We'll change the speed of this one to 5. This will override this value for this game object only. If we select one of the other enemies, we can see that the speed is still set to 1. Let's select the one we changed again. If we click on the Overrides drop-down in the inspector, we can see all the differences between this instance and the prefab. If we want to apply the changes to the prefab, then we can click on Apply All. Now all the enemies have a speed of 5. If we select the enemy prefab again, we can see it's also set to 5 in here. Let's press play to try this out. The enemies now move much faster. This is probably a bit too fast, so let's stop the game and change it back to 1 in the prefab. Okay, that covers everything for this video. In the next video in this series, we'll add a background and explain how to use sorting layers to make sure everything is rendered in the correct order. If you want to be alerted when this one is out, then subscribe and click the bell icon. If you have any questions or feedback on this video, then please let us know in the comments. A big thank you to all our patrons. We really appreciate you helping to support the channel. If you'd like to help and also get access to the source code, you can find details in the description. Thanks guys!